Imagine being about to let your best friend die because saving him would mean stealing medicine from someone else. If you truly had a lawful good alignment, you would just ignore him while he begs you, saying he wants to see his newborn child, and principles and morals would be unbreakable for you. But a big problem would arise with this, and the following 4 examples illustrate it. Superman, with his powers, could stop any threat. However, his commitment to the law is so absolute that he accumulates an army of enemies based on things like allowing a villain to escape, because stopping him would mean violating the laws of an alien planet. In his mind, justice doesn't justify breaking the rules. And the same happens with Batman or Captain America. They defend their values and the law to protect and serve, even at great personal cost. They prioritize justice, order, and the welfare of others, often placing those values above their own personal desires, according to a very strict moral code and laws. If a lawful good person found a lost wallet, he would take it to the police, even if he knew the owner, or if he could take it to the lost and found office, because he believes in order and law as the best way to do the right thing. But wouldn't you be giving up your humanity? Let's see why. If you have a neutral
This is a bawdish way to go about things, bro. Like, if you know the guy, just give him his wallet back.
good alignment, you are more complex and deeper. Imagine there's a village facing a crisis, a flood that threatens to sweep everything away. A neutral good person wouldn't stand around debating what's most fair. They would do whatever necessary to save as many people as possible, although, as we'll see, that involves making decisions that many would consider questionable. They don't worry too much about how they reach that outcome. But if you think
the ends justify the means
is their only rule, you're missing something crucial. Each situation is a puzzle, and what seems right at first glance isn't always the best option. An apparently simple decision surely hides the weight of a disturbing contradiction that few notice at first. Pay attention, because if you're neutral good, you might decide to destroy a bridge to divert water and save the majority, even if you know you'd leave many people trapped on the other side.
Alright, hold up. I'm kind of tapped into this. I feel like I may be neutral good. I don't know. Although I don't know if like if it's me personally, if I'm going out of my way as a regular human, sure. But if I had like superpowers or whatever, you're like, I save as many as I can, but
With no way to escape. This approach implies flexibility. There's no system or set of laws that defines your actions. What guides your behavior would be people's welfare, and rules for you would be a tool, not a prison. For example, when Spider-Man faces a dangerous situation, his goal isn't to comply with all laws, but to protect lives. He doesn't stop to think if he's acting within legal limits. His only concern is saving the innocent. Luke Skywalker also reflects this flexibility. Despite coming from a Jedi tradition, he doesn't limit himself to following the teachings to the letter. When rules don't align with what he considers morally right, he doesn't hesitate to challenge them, and his decision to save his father, instead of killing him as requested, is proof of his commitment to good, even if that puts him against other Jedi or the very structure in which he was trained. If you were neutral good and found a lost wallet, you would return it directly to the owner, because what matters is doing good without worrying about following formal procedures. But let's move on to the rebellious side. The
I feel
chaotic
like that makes the most sense. If you're like a lawful good, you're honestly a bot. Like not like a bot, but like you NPC of the establishment. I ain't gonna lie,
good
buddy.
alignment is often called the rebel for a reason. Imagine a town living under the rule of a tyrant. His laws are clear. No one can leave the place or rebel, or the consequences will be fatal. But then a stranger arrives, someone who doesn't belong to that system, and they don't try to negotiate, don't gather allies, or organize a peaceful revolution. Instead, they enter the tyrant's mansion, steal his riches, and start a fire that forces him to flee. The town is
Hopefully y'all can't hear that, bro. My stomach is making noise. I'm hungry as hell.
left free, but the chaos left behind is hard to ignore. That's how chaotic good people act. Individuals who break rules, challenge systems, and create their own path toward good, without worrying about conventional methods or immediate consequences. For them, laws and authority are just obstacles when they stand between them and what they consider just. Robin Hood, for example, is a classic example of this alignment. He lives outside the law, defying the authority of the Sheriff of Nottingham, and stealing from the rich to give to the poor, without worrying at all about the rules or established structure. Although his methods are chaotic, he always intends to do good, freeing people from tyranny, even if that means breaking every rule. Tony Stark, for example, has never been known for following orders. His wit and ego lead him to break protocols and challenge authority, but he always does it with the goal of protecting others, even if that puts him in conflict with his own allies. There's a very big dilemma if you're chaotic good, and it's not whether you will break the rules, but what you are willing to sacrifice to fulfill your mission. since fighting for good often brings quite a lot of chaos, because although they free others, sometimes the price of that freedom can be higher than expected. If you find a lost wallet, you would leave it in a visible place with a note so the owner can find it, trusting that people will act in good faith and creating a little bit of chaos along the way. And if you like this and find it fun, support it and join as a member now for the price of a coffee, so we can keep uploading controversial videos like the ones about Nazi symbols, gang symbols, all drugs, and more. Thank you very much. The lawful neutral alignment is indeed good. Imagine a criminal on his knees, begging for forgiveness, and in front of him, a judge who shows no emotion. The case is clear, the evidence is overwhelming, and the law demands a severe sentence. The watching crowd expects a gesture of compassion, and they pressure you, but you, as the judge, don't yield. You're not there to interpret morality or to decide what's right according to your heart. You're there to apply the law exactly as it's written. For you, fairness isn't a matter of feelings, but of keeping the system intact. If you had a lawful neutral alignment,
This might be even more of a not like a bot mindset than lawful good, but I feel like this isn't even humanly possible.
often referred to as the judge, you would not only strictly follow laws, rules, or codes without letting personal
I feel like it's logically incoherent that anybody could ever be consistent enough to be lawful neutral with every single thing in their life.
feelings influence your decisions. A clear example is Agent Smith in The Matrix. For Smith, the rules of the system are absolute, and any deviation from them must be eliminated. His relentless and emotionless approach makes him the perfect representation of someone who follows the system's laws to the letter, but without caring at all about human consequences. Obi-Wan Kenobi, especially during his early stages, also reflects this alignment. As a Jedi, he follows the Jedi Code and the Order's norms with absolute discipline, even when the decisions he must make place him in morally complex situations. But the biggest
This low-key Garp, this Garp from One Piece, bro. And this did protect my boy from the slander. Well, not even to protect. He's not even fully lawful neutral because he'd be protecting Luffy. But yeah,
challenge for lawful neutral characters is this: what
for the most
happens
part, he does still go after Luffy. So I say he's kind of a lawful neutral kind of guy. Like he just follows the Marines' orders.
when the laws that supposedly protect also hurt, or when complying with them means ignoring compassion and true justice, not artificial justice? Let's move from the courtroom to the battlefield. A warrior is on a battlefield, and before him, two armies clash fiercely. Like everything in life, both are sure their cause is just. But this warrior doesn't wield his sword for either side. Instead, he observes, analyzes, and when he decides to act, he doesn't do it to ensure the victory of one side or the other, but to prevent the conflict from getting out of control and destroying everything in its path. His only loyalty would be to balance. They could be called the balancers, who lean neither toward good nor evil, nor toward law nor chaos. For them, the world is a delicate system of forces in constant tension, and their mission is to ensure that none predominates too much over the other. In
It's Godzilla.
The Lord of the Rings,
Well,
Tom Bombadil, for example,
Godzilla
is
from
a
the
figure who
MonsterVerse,
embodies
at least. What the hell was that?
this philosophy. He lives on the margins of the great conflicts of Middle-earth, focusing only on protecting his own domain and keeping it in harmony with the natural world. Another famous example is in Avatar, The Legend of Aang. During the early stages of his journey as the Avatar, his task is to balance the elements and preserve peace
I feel like Roku reflects this a little bit more.
between
Yeah.
nations, even if that means not taking sides in the conflicts that arise. But here's the most curious thing. Being true neutral doesn't mean being indifferent. Often, these characters face impossible decisions where acting could break the balance they seek to protect. And when they finally intervene, the result can be as surprising as it is unpredictable. If you are true neutral, you intervene little, but your interventions have quite a large impact. The chaotic neutral alignment, often known as the free spirit, describes characters who prioritize their personal freedom and individuality above all else. Imagine
Yeah.
someone navigating through turbulent waters, not following any map, but trusting only his instincts. The port's rules don't matter to him. Storm warnings don't matter either. All that matters is his next destination, even if he doesn't know what it will be. That's the world of a chaotic neutral, unpredictable, full of spontaneous decisions, and guided only by the desire to be free. They act according to their own desires and impulses, without a strong commitment to law, order, or morality. For example, Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean perfectly embodies this alignment. He follows his own path and makes decisions based on his immediate interests and whims, often ignoring laws and norms. Deadpool is another example. He operates with little respect for traditional order or morality, focusing on his own goals and desires. Chaotic, neutral characters are driven by a desire to be free and unbound, making decisions that reflect their own desires, rather than adhering to any set of rules. If you were chaotic neutral and found a lost wallet, you might act in various ways. Take it without thinking twice, leave it where you found it, look at the contents, and then decide. That is, even you don't know how you would act. You don't have a fixed moral code. It all depends on what attracts you at the moment and how you feel in that situation. You wouldn't have a strong commitment to
I feel like I know a lot of people who would just take the wallet,
good
bro.
or evil, but be careful. This is not the case with the lawful evil alignment. Often called the Dominator, it describes characters who use laws, rules, and structures to achieve their own nefarious goals. They believe in order and control, but exploit these systems to gain personal benefits, power, or dominance. For example, Darth Vader from Star Wars represents this alignment. He enforces the Empire's laws and uses his position to promote his own ambitions and maintain control. Voldemort, in Harry Potter, is another example. Lawful evil characters are driven by a desire for power and control, using established systems and rules as tools to promote their own agenda, often with a cold and calculated approach. If you found a lost wallet, you would return it, but you would keep the money before handing it over, following the rules, but using them for your benefit. But the alignment that gets the most attention nowadays is neutral evil, also called the Manipulator, which describes characters who are primarily motivated by self-interest
Death Note music in the background.
and personal gain, without being limited by moral codes or laws. Imagine finding yourself in a meeting room with a leader who, while smiling cordially at you, is already plotting in his mind how to use your words and actions to his advantage. It doesn't matter what you want. What matters is what he wants, and he's willing to do anything to get it, regardless of the cost. He has no rules or moral codes to limit him. In his world, everything leads to power and control. A clear example of this alignment is found in Game of Thrones. Littlefinger, the master of intrigue, manipulates everyone
Yup. I personally like Littlefinger though.
around him to gain power and control forces in his favor without caring about the welfare of others. And another example would be Frank from House of Cards, a politician who doesn't hesitate to destroy those who cross his path, all to achieve his ambitious political goals without any consideration for ethics or order. Since for a neutral evil character, the end always justifies the means. There's no room for compassion or justice. It would be the closest thing to evolution and survival and power. They are willing to do everything, but perhaps they're not as deranged as the Destroyers or the chaotic evil alignment. Let's transport ourselves to a city in ruins. You're on streets full of chaos, and as chaotic evil, you're a being with no motive other than your own pleasure. You laugh as you watch structures that took years to build crumble. There's no plan, there's no ideology, just a need to destroy, because that's the only thing that gives you satisfaction.
That's anarchy.
Law and order are just obstacles, and your only rule would be to cause as much damage as possible. The chaotic evil alignment doesn't follow any cause, nor respect the welfare of others. It only seeks disorder, for the simple pleasure of watching everything fall apart. They are unpredictable, cruel, and completely devoid of any kind of morality.
Yeah, that's kind of insane. Anyways, if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know what moral alignment you have in the comments below. And check out this channel, Mr. Sticky. 4K subscribers, run him up. I'll catch y'all, bros. Take care, stay blessed.